Welcome to Virtue Podcast, powered by Azkka Pharmaceuticals, India's first company to bring evidence-based flat pricing in medicine. Virtue Podcast brings in renowned healthcare experts as we explore the path to healthier living, where science meets virtuosity. Tune in to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify as we welcome our virtuous guest. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon for the latest updates, and leave your comments.
And when I talked to everyone around, they said, no, why are you bothering? They don't survive. They said, type 1 diabetes, they don't live beyond 30 years. A child with type 1 diabetes or an adult with type 1 diabetes cannot survive without insulin. So when that thought came in, and I said, okay, now we have to do this in an organized manner. Because beyond 50, my own income would not be able to support them. And that's when we organize it. And then, initially we called ourselves Sahas. It was just a support group. Then we became 100, and then we had to register as an NGO. So it wasn't a planned thing that one day I'll have an NGO and take care of kids.
Right.
A child came, a problem happened, we solved the problem. We needed to make an NGO to be able to raise funds to take care of these children. And that's when Udaan was born.
So dreams can learn to fly even without wings is what I can take the message out of this. And with Udaan, you have given countless children and families the wings of knowledge, care, and confidence.
So overall, when we say diabetes in vernacular, people will say sugar.
Right.
So these are terms used, but the diabetes is of many types. Well, essentially 3 major types: type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes.
True.
Of course, there are many subtypes, many new types,
Right.
any rare types. So I won't even go into that. Today, at my doorstep, I found a girl, 14-year-old. She was comatose, barely breathing. And her parents were in tattered clothes. They just left her there.
Oh.
And I said, what are you doing? And I was like, standalone, little clinic, new doctor. You can imagine, it's not even a hospital. And the parents said that, ma'am, we have been to every hospital. We have been admitted thousands of times. We have no money left. We have nothing now. And we are leaving her here. We just saw a new board. You seem to be a new doctor. Every other doctor has now given up on us. And we are leaving this child here. If she survives, call us. If she dies, you do whatever you want to do with her. And they left.
Ma'am, that's truly inspiring. I mean, the way you saw beyond the stethoscope and medicines, the human side of diabetes care really sets the tone for this conversation, I would say. Imagine an 8-year-old who suddenly starts losing weight, drinking water all the time, and feeling tired every day. Parents think it's just a phase until one night he collapses. Only then they find out it's type 1 diabetes. This is not a rare story. It's one that thousands of families in India live through every year. And that's why today's conversation is so important. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Azkka Virtue Podcast. Joining us today is a remarkable doctor whose work goes far beyond the clinic, Dr. Archana Sarda. Ma'am is a consultant diabetologist and the founder of Udaan, an NGO that provides 24/7 support for children and families living with type 1 diabetes since 25 years. And these children and families come from underprivileged backgrounds. She also leads medical care at the Sarda Center for Diabetes and Self-Care in Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. It's an honor to have you with us today, ma'am.
Thank you.
And as we say in Marathi, आजची जाणीव उद्याचा जीव वाचवते, which means awareness we create today can save lives tomorrow. And it's such a pleasure to have you with us for this conversation.
It's a pleasure to be here, Bhavin.
Thank you so much. So, ma'am, I'll move right into the first question. Your journey is a blend of medicine and mission, I would say. When did you first feel, that diabetes care for children needs something beyond clinic and prescriptions?
So that actually is a story. When I was a young pass out and I started my practice as a diabetes clinic,
Okay.
I'm an adult physician and a diabetologist.
Right.
And children with type 1 diabetes were not my primary focus at that time.
Mhm.
But within a year of my practice, I realized that I don't have a single person coming to me with type 1 diabetes.
Right.
And I was a little curious because in my training, we had seen young adults with type 1 diabetes. And then one day, at my doorstep, I found a girl, 14-year-old. She was comatose, barely breathing, and her parents were in tattered clothes. They just left her there. And they said, I said, what are you doing? And I was like, standalone, little clinic, new doctor. You can imagine, it's not even a hospital. And the parents said that, ma'am, we have been to every hospital. We have been admitted thousands of times. We have no money left. We have nothing now. And we are leaving her here. We just saw a new board. You seem to be a new doctor. Every other doctor has now given up on us. And we are leaving this child here. If she survives, call us. If she dies, you do whatever you want to do with her. And they left. And I was helpless. I just picked up the girl. At that time, it was a new clinic. I called up my husband. He said, you walk till there. I'll reach there. We reached the nearest hospital. The doctor first asked who will pay her bill. And as a young doctor, I also didn't have that much money, I said, I'll take care of it. And I spent 7 days with the girl.
Wow.
So, as a doctor, as a nurse, as a mother, I used to collect her urine, check her ketones, did everything. And in those 7 days, I learned more about type 1 diabetes than I had learned ever. And that's when I realized that it's not just a disorder or a disease, we don't even call it that now, but it's also psychological, social, financial, emotional. And that's when I decided to do something about it. So it is a little dramatic, but that's how it happened.
Wow. I mean, just hearing that gives me goosebumps. So, ma'am, that's truly inspiring. I mean, the way you saw beyond the stethoscope and medicines, the human side of diabetes care really sets the tone for this conversation, I would say. So, medicine becomes truly powerful when it touches humanity. I mean, I think the story which you narrated, I mean, it's so apt. And your journey actually reflects that, I'm sure our viewers can already feel the passion through your words. I mean, the way you've handled. Just listening can give me so much of goosebumps. I'm sure. I mean, this could have been the moment, which is absolutely life changing. So, ma'am, you built Udan from scratch, an NGO that educates, mentors, and uplifts, especially children coming from underprivileged or poor families. What was that one moment that sparked this idea? Was this the one you narrated?
This was the idea, but that was the moment I started working in type 1 diabetes.
Right.
So the only thing I did at that time as a young practitioner was I said, okay, I'll take care of children with diabetes.
Right.
So whichever child came to me, I said, I'll treat them free. I'll try to get insulins for them, get them to monitor. But then my first 50 kids happened. I realized that it's not a very sustainable process, because it's expensive.
Right.
Plus, when I talk to doctors around in my town, so I come from Aurangabad, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar in Marathwada, and when I talk to everyone around, they said, no, why are you bothering? They don't survive. They said, type 1 diabetes, they don't live beyond 30 years. Why do you want to work for them? Then I said, why should they die? People, there are such famous people who have money, who are in metros, are doing well. And you don't have money and you live in a small town, you die. So when that thought came in, and I said, okay, now we have to do this in an organized manner. Because beyond 50, my own income would not be able to support them. And that's when we organize it. And then, initially we called ourselves Sahas. It was just a support group. Then we became 100, and then we had to register as an NGO. So it wasn't a planned thing that one day I'll have an NGO and take care of kids.
Right.
A child came. A problem happened. We solved the problem. We needed to make an NGO to be able to raise funds to take care of these children. And that's when Udan was born.
Wow. Wow. So, ma'am, it truly sounds like, you are the chosen ones, which has led to this. I mean, that's such a powerful story. So, Udan really sounds like an organization, more like a movement of hope, I would say. So dreams can learn to fly even without wings is what I can take the message out of this. And with Udan, you have given countless children and families the wings of knowledge, care, and confidence. Uh, it's heartwarming to know that this spark which came one point in time has lit so many lives over the last 25 years. So, ma'am, many people listening might know, diabetes in general terms. So we have heard that, okay, diabetes. But often they think it's all the same. Whereas for someone hearing the term type 1 diabetes for the first time, what exactly is type 1 diabetes, if you can share, and how is it different from the more common, which is type 2 diabetes?
Yes. So, overall, when we say diabetes in vernacular, people will say sugar.
Right.
So, these are terms used, but the diabetes is of many types.
Right.
Essentially, three major types: type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes.
True.
Of course, there are many subtypes, many new types,
Right.
many rare types. So, I won't even go into that.
Right.
But type 1 and type 2 are two basic differences. One, type 1 usually happens in younger people, which is children, usually pre-pubertal and pubertal age children. But just for information, can happen at any age. Right? Earlier, people used to think type 2 will happen in adults and type 1 will happen in kids. So it's no longer true, because type 2 now happens in kids as well,
Right.
because of lifestyle changes.
True.
And type 1 can happen at any age, even in adults. But that is one of the commonest difference. Second, and the main difference, is total insulin deficiency. So the main difference between type 1 and type 2 is that in type 1 diabetes, the insulin inside actually finishes.
Right.
You can just, so it's an autoimmune disorder, which means your own body attacks your immunity to destroy the beta cell which produces insulin.
Okay.
Since it is a total insulin deficiency, the only way to treat is to replace insulin.
Right.
Like, people must be knowing, even in type 2 diabetes, you may be giving insulin to somebody after some years or for some reason.
Right.
But that is not a replacement therapy. They can survive without insulin.
True.
A child with type 1 diabetes or an adult with type 1 diabetes cannot survive without insulin.
Right.
So, insulin therapy becomes the mainstay. And it has to be replaced physiologically.
Right.
I mean, physiologically meaning that the way nature has given it to us, the way it is in a person without diabetes,
Right.
similarly, we have to replace it.
So true.
So, total replacement of insulin is needed, and that is type 1 diabetes. So, it's not a choice.
Right.
It is an absolute survival need.
Wow. So I think many listeners, might have carried these misconceptions about diabetes as one single disease, and your breakdown really helps. I mean, you have given absolutely two different maps, that what exactly is type 1 and type 2. So, ma'am, how is type 1 diabetes diagnosed? Are there any specific tests or markers that confirm it, or it usually, is diagnosed something like, what you shared in the, in the story?
The way it happens. See, sadly, mostly in our country today also, a child collapses, and that's when it is diagnosed.
Oh.
But actually, it can be detected early
Okay.
with signs and symptoms.
Right.
The signs and symptoms are very simple. We call them the 4 T's. So, thirst, tiredness, then what? Hunger, and then losing weight. So, losing weight, being very tired, being very thirsty, being very hungry. And these are the symptoms of type 1 diabetes.
Right.
But the problem is that doctors, caregivers, school teachers, and parents,
Right.
that they do not suspect diabetes in children.
Right. So true.
Right. So, even if a child is thirsty or wetting the bed, they will think, oh, it's okay for a child to do. They'll think of so many things. If a child is eating too much, they'll think there are worms, there's something wrong. Things like that. But they'll not think of diabetes.
So true.
So, we really need a lot of noise when it comes to the symptoms of diabetes, and that can happen in children.
Right.
And we need to talk about is that type 1 diabetes can happen in children.
Right.
So, it can be detected early, and the test is very simple. Just check the blood sugar level.
Right.
I mean, there are many tests. You do HbA1c, you do the antibody testing, you do the C-peptide levels, but those are next level. In a low resource setting or at a primary level, just to start treatment
Right.
and to save life, all you need is a blood sugar test.
So true.
So, if person has symptoms and blood sugar is high, one can start treatment and later on classify with all other next level tests.
Right. Right.
Second part of your question is, there something we can do before that?
Right.
Yes, lot of science has come in where there are screening tests available today.
Okay.
Right? So, these are antibody tests which can be done early. But how can we now do? It's expensive. Number two, what if we do test every child? Then how frequent will we test? And suppose we come to know that this child might get type 1 diabetes in 2 years. Will it create a scare? Will it help? Because if you had a cure, then it would help. But we don't have a cure. So, if we screen early, we could probably predict that child can have type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
But only drugs available today are which can postpone it. They can't cure it.
Okay.
So it's a big debate across the country. In Western world, the early screening is a thing today.
Mhm.
In India, it is still thought of as not
Right.
a profitable equation.
Right.
A place where it is recommended is in siblings of children with type 1 diabetes.
Oh.
Because they are
Right.
again likely
More
to have,
prone
so
to.
we can actually screen them early.
Okay.
So for our country, I would say today, just knowing the signs and symptoms and suspecting that a child can have type 1 diabetes
Right.
and telling that, shouting about it on rooftops, putting it in Anganwadi workers, Asha workers, doctors, pharmacists, every single person should know, putting it in schools.
So true.
So that can save lives. You don't need to do anything else.
So I think a lot of your time would be going on, making the families accept that okay, this can be one of the things. So that's very reassuring for parents, who might be listening right now. Having clarity about the exact test removes a lot of guesswork and anxiety.
Exactly.
So I think the way you explain the role of markers and diagnosis, makes it less intimidating and more like a step forward towards empowerment. So parents often, worry whether they missed a sign or did not act in time. I mean, once the child collapses and you are seeing, there's also guilt which parents would carry, and sometimes the body gives signals we overlook, like you mentioned. These are simple symptoms, but we overlook. So, what are the early signs or red flags in type 1 diabetes that parents shouldn't ignore or overlook?
Right. I think for a parent, any child who, see, when a growing child, what are two things you expect? A child will grow.
Right.
So height is increasing, weight is increasing, which is
True.
natural. Till 18, every child is growing.
Right.
So stunting in that growth or delay in that growth, a child is actually losing weight at an age when they're going to gain weight or they're not. So normally we say every family should have, like on the wall, when we were kids, you used to mark with a pen,
Right.
and you're growing, you've grown 1 centimeter tall, and you see, 3 months have passed, the child has not gained height. 6 months have passed, the child has not gained height. So is there something missing? Very something like that. So simple growth, lack of growth is one thing, and tiredness. You don't expect a tired child, right? So a child is always chirpy, and especially a child who's active is now suddenly tired after a game, sitting, not one. So tired and not growing is something parents can pick up very easily. Thirst is of course another thing, and again going to the bathroom again and again. These are two things people think they're shamming. And they also think, very hungry, very thirsty, going to the washroom. They say, oh, the child is naughty. They don't really think about it, but it's something to notice. Right? And also these two things. So very simple things. And all you have to do is go to your doctor, get a blood sugar check done, or go to the lab, get a sugar check done, and it's clear. Not much to be done. But if you detect it that early, then one doesn't end up in what we call as diabetes ketoacidosis. And that is where a child would collapse and could have convulsions, go into a coma, becomes a life-threatening situation. And from first symptom to going into decay is not a very long journey. It could be different for different people, but it's only a couple of weeks, maybe. So it's good to detect early with symptoms.
So true. And I think here the more important part is, as new parents, you should break that shackle that, my child can also have, and that's completely fine.
Every child, rich, poor,
So,
city, village, male, female, educated, uneducated, doctor, non-doctor.
Exactly.
Nobody is exempt from this. So everyone has to be like on their toes.
So there has to be that sense of acceptance, and then I think that's the first thing. I mean, once you break that mental barrier, I think parents will start looking beyond, and maybe we can detect a bit early.
We think so, but it's very difficult for parents to have acceptance because my child is the best, and there are a lot of myths. One of the reasons people don't do this, they think it always has to be hereditary. So every person who comes to us, so nobody in our family has type 1 diabetes. How come our child has? That is one thing. So they have to know that it can come without hereditary. In fact, it's not.
True.
Secondly, people think that we don't eat too much sugar. So there's a whole
Right.
concept that if lifestyle, and that also leads to a lot of guilt. People think, why did we give our child too many chocolates? Did we not feed the child properly?
Right.
So what actually led to type 1 diabetes? There are a lot of myths.
True.
In our society, myths go beyond this. They go to somebody has done jadoo tuna, black magic,
Yeah.
or you're giving penance for something you did bad in your life.
Right.
So it's seen as a punishment. There are a lot of things. So we really need to talk about it being a very simple autoimmune disorder which can happen to anyone. It's not because of any other reasons, social or food or family or mother's care. So this all will take away the guilt, and one can be addressing it as a very simple thing, insulin deficiency, which needs to be replaced. So that's how we need to look at it and present it so that people can focus on it.
So, ma'am, I can only imagine, I mean, from what you are saying, that so much of your time would be going not only to diagnose and treat, but to deal with so many other aspects. I mean, in terms of counseling, in terms of there's so many things, I mean, which would
10% is treatment, 90% is education and counseling and motivation and everything else.
So true. I mean, the way you have highlighted the subtle signs, I mean, things that parents may brush aside as normal can actually be life-saving. So, I mean, in India, we know that, half the battle in healthcare is against myths and stigmas, not the condition itself. And type 1 diabetes is no exception. I mean, this is what I've gathered from the conversation we are having. So, what I want to ask you is, what's the biggest myth that parents or patients come to you with, and how do you break it for them?
I think we can call it a myth, we can call it a fear, we can call it something that people believe in fact, is that a person with type 1 diabetes or child with type 1 diabetes cannot live a complete, fulfilling life. Right? So they see it as a disorder, disease, disability that will, number one, quantity of life will become less, quality of life will become less, and they cannot achieve whatever they're meant to achieve. So when a family comes to us for the first time, even when they're coming with a 7-year-old girl or a 6-year-old, especially for girls, they will ask, will she get married? Will she have children? The first thought, and I'm being very blunt in this, I think families in India, I'm very sorry to say this, they have children for 2 reasons only. One is they will grow up, earn a lot of money and support us in our old age. Second, they will carry on our lineage, produce a hire, get married. So they think these two things are not going to happen. The child is not going to get up and earn a lot of money and support us because the child has a disease. Secondly, the child is not going to get married and have a kid, so it's a stigma to have an unmarried daughter, unmarried son. So the actual medical problems are not their worry at all. It is the social aspect which just troubles them day in and day out. And when they come to us for the first time, that is what we address first, because that's absolutely untrue. A person with type 1 diabetes can live whatever is the normal life, do whatever they wish. I mean, except producing insulin on their own, currently there is nothing that a person with type 1 diabetes cannot do. And once we tell them this, and the only way to tell them is not theoretically. So what we do in Udan is we introduce them to 5 people who are already more than 10 years into type 1 diabetes, who are either married, have a baby, or are working, or are trekking, or are running a marathon. And they say, if she can do it, if he can do it, my child can. So because, words are not enough. We have to see real live champions. So T1D community is the biggest motivator, which makes them get rid of these myths. So that's how we handle it.
So ma'am, you have this kind of communities within the city, all India and all, where they get connected.
Yes, I think first, if we talk about Udan, then in the rural spaces, because everything existed in cities and metros, but in rural areas this wasn't happening. So now we have a huge network. And if anywhere a child gets detected, we trace out the nearest person in our network, and they will land up because they love to support each other because they've been through it, right?
Yeah.
So a child in the remotest of village will get a family visit them and say, "Don't worry, we also have it. Look, our son is doing well. You will do well," and that transforms the family.
Wow.
And what you will be happy to know, and all our viewers will be happy to know, across India, people are doing amazing job.
Wow.
So I know at least 50 or 60 type 1 diabetes foundations. These are people with lived experiences who are giving back to society.
Right.
All the way from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, left to right.
Wow.
The country has beautiful organizations by people with diabetes, with type 1 diabetes, who are now supporting others. So they are on social media, they're online, they're in all over the country. Of course, all over the world as well, but also in India. So it feels like a very good time today. 25 years back when we started, we were so alone. I mean, people used to laugh at me. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? But today, if I reach out and I say I have a child who's gone to Chhattisgarh, I know there's somebody in Chhattisgarh who can take care of her. Somebody goes to Kolkata, there's somebody there. So it's like a network, and we all help each other, and it works beautifully.
Wow. That's really heartwarming. I mean, to see, people supporting each other. And as you rightly said, I mean, the person who have gone through this will be surely very much, in a state of mind that, okay, you should help somebody who has just entered this phase. And I think it really
help
helps.
is simply saying that, look, I've been through. Just seeing that somebody else has success story to share just gives them so much energy.
Wow.
And they can guide them to the right resources, the right path, not falling into the quack's hands, going to a good structured education program, accessing insulin in places where people can't afford it. That also happens. So all that. So it works very well as a national network.
Wow.
So it's really heartwarming to see how all the communities across the country connect. So today they will reach out not just to give emotional support, but also to direct them where is the nearest NGO who can give you insulin supplies, where can you get structured education, where can you actually go to the right path, otherwise you fall into the hand of quacks. That is another problem that's very common. I got recently, I've had a child who was branded with hot, I don't know what they used, but he had hot crosses, burns all over the abdomen, because the guy he went to said that it will cure your diabetes and your sugar will go away, insulin will stop. So the entire thought is, why give insulin injections? If I have talked to a lot of people about it, the entire stigma revolves around injections. Problem in India is anything which is injectable seems like it's something very dangerous. It's a last stage. You're gonna die or something like that. If insulin came in a pill, they don't mind kids taking 10 pills a day. But it's the injection which is a social stigma, mental block. It doesn't pain. It pains here. I keep telling them, the children say there's no pain. The parents have all the pain. The society has all the pain for some weird reason. The children are happy. It's the rest of the people who are living in the pain, and they transmit that mental, social pain to them by saying, either pitying them or offering alternative advices, which really goes bad.
Very true. I mean, I love how you busted that myth so directly. I mean, it's surprising, how misinformation can weigh heavier than the illness itself.
Oh, yes.
So, ma'am, childhood is, meant for play, growth, and discovery. But when insulin becomes a daily part of life, it can feel like a barrier, as you just said. That's what parents feel, where it is not the case. So, how do you personalize insulin regimens for young children or adolescents, given that their lifestyle, diet, and growth are so dynamic?
Absolutely. So there's a whole science to it. So one, I think it's a marriage between science and education, right? So once you understand the science and then you translate it into a method that is individualized for that setting. For example, I have children who are nomadic parents, who are nomadic parents. So they're taking the sheep and traveling with them. Or I have bonded laborers. right, who are working on sugarcane farms and their
Right.
children are living with them
Ah.
and they have type 1 diabetes.
Wow.
Now, how do we give this entire dynamic freedom to them
Ah.
versus a child who is in a metro and, taking a school bus to school and
Right.
all that? So,
Right.
there's a whole spectrum.
So true.
The point is, if you understand the basics, you can translate it and make it available to each one of them.
Right.
It has some basic, simple principles. One is healthy eating. One is very important to understand there's no such thing as a diabetic diet. So it's not like your brother is going to eat a different food and you're going to eat a different food. The family eats the same food.
Right.
So teaching that to eat healthy. Second is, if one can, it's not easy, but one can do it, is to count the carbs in your food.
Right.
So if I know that this many carbs is what I'm eating, so that's one knowledge I have.
Right.
Third is if I check my sugar before I eat.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then with this three, armed with these three, I know the carbs in my food, I'm eating healthy, and I check my sugar.
Right.
I can calculate how much insulin to take.
Ah.
Right? And I take that insulin shot and I eat.
Right.
So if I can do these four things,
Ah.
then what is the barrier? Every child eats a tiffin in school. What is the difference between a child with diabetes and without diabetes? You go through this process. You know the carbs in your tiffin. You check your sugar. Accordingly, you calculate your insulin dose and take it, and then you eat. So it's just, say, a person eats 5 times a day, for example. It's 5 minutes, 5 times a day. So in 24 hours, a person with diabetes is given 25 minutes.
Right.
For this care.
Right.
And if we empower them with how to do it yourself.
Right.
Right? So again, it's not that easy for everyone, but there are ways, and that's what everyone is working on.
Wow.
Other than, of course, there's a lot of education regarding emergencies, lows, highs, and education can be given, person can be empowered. What it takes after this is a lifelong motivation and support system. Because one gets tired. Right? But a child can climb mountains, participate in every picnic, do everything. In fact, we insist that they do everything.
Wow.
Right? Because that's the way to show the world as well as themselves. And more than showing the world, they have to prove it to themselves that they can do
anybody
everything.
else. Wow. You have simplified it so well, ma'am. So that personalizing insulin not as a burden but as a companion to growth, really shifts the mindset. And I think your approach brings, not just medical precision, but also that emotional comfort to the families. I mean, I'm sure whoever is listening to this, these words are so comforting. I mean, not having anybody in the family or somebody, I still feel okay. It is so not that difficult to manage. I mean, the way you have put it across, just amazing. So,
I give example of riding a bike to parents. I said, even when the first time when your child was on a bicycle, earlier you had those side wheels so that you will not fall. So those are parents who are always there to help. And then later on take away the side wheel. They'll fall a couple of times. And later on they're like so good about it. So anything when you start learning, there'll be some turmoil. Initially you don't get the dose right, you can't do the carb counting, sometimes you don't get the insulin right. So there's some up and downs. But in another few months you're like, now I'm
eventually you learn.
Eventually you're like so confident.
Wow.
In fact, we have to then say, okay, please learn again. Sometimes overconfident.
So true, so true. So, ma'am, globally there are any new drugs and innovations that really excite you as a diabetologist treating type 1 diabetes?
Yes. See, ultimately, what is really exciting is cure.
So true.
So recently, there have been hypoimmune islet cell replacements. So it has been successfully done in one case only. But giving islet cell replacement, which will help in insulin production, which has helped without immunosuppressions.
Right.
Because the basic catch of this happening earlier also was that immunosuppression was needed.
Right.
So if you're doing a islet cell replacement transplant and you're giving immunosuppression for life, then it's not really a cure because it's just as bad or maybe worse than taking insulin. But this has given certain hope. So right now, I think that is the biggest thing on the horizon. Till then, of course, insulin delivery systems are getting better and better. You have automated insulin pumps. You have the closed hybrid, semi-hybrid. Now, you have so it makes life easy. So technology is definitely making life easy, but it comes at a cost. I work in low resource setting, so it becomes difficult to be able to offer that to everyone.
Right.
Although we are still striving for it, but ultimately cure is exciting. And now with this one, we are
Hopeful.
really hopeful, really hopeful.
Yeah. No, that's really fascinating. I mean, hearing about these innovations gives so much hope. It's almost like, the science of diabetes care is catching up with the resilience of these little.
Absolutely.
So I would say that's really fascinating. I mean, hearing about these innovations gives so much hope. It's almost like the science of diabetes, is catching up with the resilience of these little warriors. I think our audience will be encouraged knowing the future is not only brighter but also closer than what we think. So these are not something only wishful, but I think it is something which we can see.
I'm looking at a future where this will happen.
Wow.
But again, I tell my parents, do I know what will happen to me 5 years from now? Do I know what's going to happen to me 10 years from now? So take one day at a time, one year at a time,
Absolutely.
and just hope for the best.
Very true. Very true. So you have seen young kids and teens living bravely with type 1 diabetes. Can you share any story, that still gives you goosebumps? I mean, maybe a child who truly embodied, the spirit of Udan.
Okay, so this is a story I have shared earlier, but I'll share the same because it does give me goosebumps today as well. A young girl, when she was 12 or 13, having lived with diabetes, type 1 diabetes in a low resource setting for last 5 years, 6 years. Her parents, because of social stigma, poverty, many things, and she's a Udan girl, gave her one night in a room a can of kerosene and gave her a matchbox. They closed the door, they stepped out, and they said, "You know what to do." And she thought about it, and because there was so much of pressure from everyone. But next day, she came to us, and obviously she didn't do it. And she said that, "Ma'am, the only reason I didn't do it is because I thought you will cry. And all my friends in Udan will cry. And I don't want to see tears in my friends' eyes, in your eyes." So that's what kept her going. And today, that girl, now this is 10 years back, 15 years back, in early years of Udan, we were a smaller community then, yet it was what drove us to continue. Today, she is a teacher, she has a child who's 5 years old, single mother. She has single-handedly carried this journey, and she is giving back to every child in Udan. At any opportunity, she will reach out, she will help others while taking care of her own life. So she has become a type 1 diabetes advocate, champion, a role model for others. But the pain of what has happened earlier, and she had the guts to share the story on a national or global platform. But this is probably a very common story everywhere. Sometimes very direct, sometimes indirect. But these are champions. And that is the kind of resilience that I would say Udan or a community, the power of being together. Because even with the best of care, there's a time one gets tired. There's a time we say, "Why me?" There's a time when a person will say, "How long will this go on?" Another year, forever. And you just get too exhausted. There's an official term that's a burnout, right? But it's even beyond that. It can be phases of depression, so many things. What keeps you going is somebody who believes in you, a community, people who care, people who are like you. And that is the whole power of being together. So that's what Udan is all about, that we are there for each other.
Wow. I mean, I have no words. I mean, it's so heart-wrenching. As you said, I mean, these are the true champions. And I think they deserve the kind of platforms, where they can share these kind of stories to inspire, I think, billions.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. And it's
And
so...
they're like, if I have 2,000 kids, these are 2,000 stories because everyone has been through a journey of challenge. This one I shared because it was specifically very, very heart-wrenching. And it doesn't just inspire people living with diabetes, it inspires us to do more.
So
And,
true.
because sometimes we doubt ourselves. What are we doing? Are we doing enough? Are we really making an impact? Because again we get more and more kids and families with the same problem. So no matter how much we do, there is still more to be done.
Right.
Right? So often there is self-doubt even as an NGO. That are we adequate? Have we really made a difference? But then when we hear these stories, when we have these champions, it gives us energy to go on.
Very true.
So it really inspires us as well.
Wow. And I'm sure, I mean, you being a part of this, at the center of this, I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, you would be feeling, that every bit of the hard work that you have put in, right from your studies till date, I mean, these 25 years are all worth it. I mean, more than worth it, I would say. I mean, such stories actually, wow, and that's something,
Still minds to go.
So this is really amazing. I mean, I'm short of words, but yeah, what I can say is more power to you.
Thank you so much.
That indeed, gave me goosebumps too. It's incredible how children, despite their challenges and challenges like these, can teach us adults about courage and positivity.
Oh yes, they're so resilient. They're so strong. I learn from them every day. I cannot imagine what I would have done in that situation. We get bothered with such little things. Now they seem little in comparison with what they are facing. Little criticism, lack of name, lack of this can bog down a doctor. I mean, but look at them. They are facing stigma, criticism, shame sometimes from their own families, friends, relatives, society, and yet they rise.
So true, so true. I mean, this conversation actually, somewhere brings in me personally, I would say, a lot of sense of gratitude. I mean, to whatever we have, how privileged we are.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Stories like this also make us realize that diabetes doesn't define them, but the spirit does.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very nice hook sentence that our kids do use whenever they do their selfies. Even from rural areas, they write, diabetes doesn't define us. And they know, they mean it. It's not just a word, they absolutely mean it.
So true. I mean, let's dream a little, because sometimes, imagining the ideal future gives us the blueprint to work towards it. If you could reimagine healthcare for children with type 1 diabetes in India, what would your dream model look like? Partly, I know you're looking for a cure.
Of course,
but yeah.
So something realistically, if I speak about, then for a dream model for healthcare in type 1 diabetes would look like, number one, we have type 1 diabetes as part of the NCD guidelines. I look at type 1 diabetes in every NCD clinic in India, which means to the last mile, because we have a very robust system in the country.
Right.
And not just having it there, but actually having a trained doctor or a healthcare worker where absolutely zero cost supplies, because these are life saving. This is not a choice. Today we do not have insulin supplies and monitoring devices. And I would add CGMS. Okay, I'm not even talking about pump, but CGMS is as important as this. So if we could have monitoring insulin, and I'm talking about basal bolus insulin, definitely not the pre-mix insulin and all that. We're talking about physiological analog basal bolus insulin. So insulins, monitoring and investigations available, say even at a PHC for every child, because they have to spend one day's salary to just travel to the hospital. So it should be available locally. That's one.
Right.
Second, a collaborative education and support group everywhere. Because I understand that a government setup may not have the entire setup of giving the kind of support we are talking about. But then some collaboration district-wise, that there should be something in a district where a person with type 1 detected with type 1 diabetes go there. Right? You have HIV setups, you have tuberculosis setups, you have polio drives.
Yeah, so why
right?
not for this?
And why can't the government also do something like that? Like Amitabh Bachchan said, "Do boon zindagi ke," and everything changed.
Yeah.
Get us somebody who will talk about do boon insulin ke, and a child will be a superstar.
Yeah.
So this kind of
awareness
is what I'm looking at, so that when there's a lot of noise, there is acceptance. So medical care at the grassroots level, empowerment in terms of support, and a big level awareness drive from the government. So three things, if we work on together, will automatically take care of all the challenges till we find a cure.
Wow,
So that's what a dream looks like.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say, as we come towards the end of this wonderful conversation, that's a beautiful vision that you have.
And it's doable.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, the cure, of course, will come when it comes,
Yeah.
but this is absolutely doable.
So true.
I mean, I really don't see somebody just wants to have to do it. I mean, the will has to come.
Right.
It's absolutely doable.
Absolutely. I mean, the way you see healthcare not just as a treatment, but as a system of support, education, and empowerment and awareness, I would say, is exactly what the future needs. So, if that dream model becomes reality, I'm sure millions of lives will find a healthier tomorrow.
Absolutely. And that's a model that can be replicated for all chronic disorders.
Right.
So,
Wow. I mean, ma'am, this conversation, actually has brought in so many emotions, has brought out, I would say, so many emotions in me. I mean, I'm sure, not very sure of all the viewers, but in me, this conversation, I'm taking it, as a personal message that, what all it takes to, build something like Udan. And you have done a tremendous job, ma'am. So, ma'am, thank you for sharing your wonderful wisdom, your stories, and above all, your vision for children and families living with diabetes, especially type 1. Through your work and through UDAN, you have shown us that diabetes care isn't just about insulin and prescriptions, it's about hope, resilience, and community as a whole. To our viewers, I leave you with today's takeaway that with right support, education, and compassion, every challenge we can overcome.
sure.
This was Hope, Health, and Udan, a new flight against type 1 diabetes with Dr. Archana Sarda. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, and above all, stay healthy. Thank you so much, ma'am. It
Thank
was
you.
a pleasure to have you for this.
Same here. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.